Hello and welcome back to my Astro Imaging Journey channel. So, apologies, I didn't have a first light video. In my overzealousness to get it going, I completely spaced and didn't record the desktop. So, in this video, I'm just going to walk through my SGP settings for all the equipment. Did get I got about 3 hours 2 nights ago. The night I installed everything, the clouds broke for about 3 hours and then they came back in. So there was a lot of trials and tribulations on that, and I'll go over that in some of the settings when I get to them. And then last night I got a full night session in, and as you can see here, the Whirlpool Galaxy is up there. I believe that's HA. So let's take a look at our settings. First, let's look at the sequencer, and as you can see on Bode's Galaxy, I got H alpha, S2O3, and hydrogen beta almost completed. While I was watching, I would have went with 9 here, but I did see 2 subs live that were bad, so I went ahead and bumped that up while it was running. And then M51, we got 3 H alphas done. So as you can see, everything's connected, so we'll be able to look at the settings. Now let's come down here to our control panel. I could go over to Equipment Profile Manager. Either one has pretty much the same data. So for the ASI 1600mm Pro, as you can see here, there's the ASI camera number 2. The number 1 is the 174 mm Mini for the guiding. The cooler is currently off, but this is for manual control, warm up and cool down. So I have it set to cool down to negative 30 degrees Celsius from ambient within 5 minutes, and warm up to 20 degrees Celsius in 10 minutes. Cool down when the camera connects, of course. Cool down when the sequence starts, of course. Clearly, if you cool down when the camera connects, then if it takes you 20 minutes to get to a point where you can start the sequence, then it really doesn't matter about this one, but I leave it checked just in case I get to make things a little bit quicker, because I usually don't kick these off. I really don't start the sequence until I get everything all ironed out, and it's all ready from the alignment standpoint and connectivity, all that good stuff. So no, I'm forgetting something, but anyways, by the time I get to this point, I'm ready to start the sequence. It's already cooling down, and it's usually around 10 or so, at least the past couple nights. By the time I started the sequence, it was around neg 10, neg 15, and by the time it gets through the PhD calibration, frame and focus, auto centering, by the time it gets to a point where it can actually start taking images, we're well past this 5-minute mark and it's cooled down. The gains, I've read that 135 was a good setting, so that's what I set it to. I will be playing with that at a later date to see if I need to change those. I'm guessing I do. And the live data, I believe this is live data because this angle will change. If I go into the settings for the camera, and all of this was auto-populated when I connected the camera. Preset manual. I don't have any idea what that is yet. And the gain of 135 here is set, but I also set it on our bidding levels here. And I didn't touch anything in this little pop out. Onto our filters, ZWO, electronic filter wheel. For some reason, when you install the drivers, 2 of these filter wheels pop up. I'm not sure which one it really was supposed to be, but number 1 did work. If we go into the settings, you can see this was not populated when we first connected it up. I had to go into the edit, and why is my age alpha offset? That should be a 0. Okay, so all 8 positions were here. They were blank as far as the names. I believe when I did the initial setup for this, you saw me populate these in that video. And then for the filter wheel actions, okay, this drop down was empty initially. What I had to come over and do was to define the filter list, and this popped up and there was nothing. So I had to import, and we won't do it now because I don't want to override everything since everything was working last night. But another pop-up would come up with a warning saying, do you want to do this? Yes, no. And that's when all of this populated with what was set up in the settings. So we say, yep, let's add those. Focus on filter. I would change that if I had my offsets set, which I don't. Just didn't have enough time to go through and play with that. Other than that, that's pretty much it. Once I saved that or clicked OK, then we had time to come in here and all of this started to populate. So if I wanted to right now, I could go and do loom. And as you can see, it's moving. And we're at our luminance filter. You can see it changed over here on the left as well. Focus. This is, even though it says the Nightcrawler, it is the Lightcrawler. The step size is much finer than with the CHL, so instead of 10-100, I've been using 100-1000. That's been working very well for me. Let's go into the settings, and this is what was odd to me because we're wanting the focuser setup, but we get a rotator. So yeah, other to use over at maximum steps. Okay. Backlash. Yep. So yeah, I left all those checked or unchecked. Don't you know, if we were having issues attaining focus because we're trying to tell it to go in but it's actually going out, then we would want to reverse it, but we're not having that problem. Don't use focus reminder. Set autofocus and use the half flux or HFR. I focus based on my rig, my OTA. I know it's starting to go out of focus at around a degree in temperature change. I could probably push that to 1.5, but that's fine. 1 second's fine. And autofocus every 90 minutes. Some nights are pretty quiet as far as temperature change is concerned, and it can go a few hours without a full degree Celsius change, and things move. That mirror might move a little bit even though it's all locked down. Who knows? So I just set it to every 90 minutes, just refocus, just to be safe. And then autofocus after automatic centering action. Obviously, even though I run a focus routine before I even start the sequence, I keep that check box just to be safe. Autofocus on resume, I do not do that. Simply because I've had issues where when the resume would be trying to kick off, and if it was due to clouds, it potentially would focus a little bit off if it did manage to focus on anything, and then the next time it would be too far off due to a temperature change, and then it couldn't find focus, and then it would kill the imaging night. I have lost a couple nights of imaging, about half a night, several nights not in a row, but simply because that was checked and it could not resume. Autofocus before sequence starts, not on resume. So first thing it's going to do is it's going to auto center, and I run the autofocus routine before I even start the sequence, so this would be redundant. So I leave that unchecked. And autofocus on filter change, I should do that one. So I'm going to go ahead and check that. Did notice that last night. My exposure times, that goes back to this screen here for the filter setup. As you can see, luminance, I got to set to 5 seconds, everything else set to 10 seconds. Binning's 4x4. The autofocus data points. So when the graph comes up, the autofocus, you're going to have segmented lines or grid pattern. So it's going to move this number of steps being the focuser steps, out, and then times this divided, or minus 1 divided by 2. So if with this we have 9 data points, and so that would be 9 minus 1 is 8, divided by 2 is 4. So we're going to go out 4 data points, which would be 2,000 steps, because each data point is going to be 500 steps. So it's going to move out 2,000, take an image, calculate it, move it in 500, and it's going to go all the way till you're 2,000 steps away on the inside from your initial start point. It's going to do that 9 times, and at each point it's going to calculate and give us our, hopefully, a little bit of a curve so it can determine where the best focus point is. How to get this number, essentially what I just did there. How many data points do we want? 9 seems to be a good number for me. I know some people use 5 or 7, some use as much as 13. You know, that's entirely up to what you want to do and your setup. For my setup, 9 seems to work the best. To get the step size, manually focus using our controls over here. As you can see down here in the image statistics, we have a 6.1 for the HFR. You know, just go through, step in and out, find your focus, and then, you know, once you do a manual focus with the OTA's focusing setup, then achieve focus using the controls, and then step it out or in, one way or the other, until your HFR is approximately double. So in this particular case, if my HFR at focus was a 6, then I would be wanting to go to a 12. And at that point, we should have noted what our current position is when we started, when we got in focus. Subtract that from the double HFR position, and then divide that by 4 if we were using 9 data points. We take our number of data points minus 1, divide by 2, you take that, you divide it into the how many steps were moved, and that comes up with the number of step size per data point. Okay. And I rounded off it, you know, it was like 503 or something like that. I just rounded it off to 500. Autofocus. Okay, so when it does its thing and it's done, I'm going to change this down to a 5. You know, the autofocus screen will stay up for however long you specify here. Minimum star diameter at 1 by 1, binning 5, that works. I've never had a problem with that. I'm using an SCT. As you can see in the little flyout, that if your scope has a central obstruction, you should most likely disable. So I have disabled, and it has done me well. I'm not autofocusing on a filter because I do not have my presets done yet, or my filter offsets done yet. I don't crop the image, and I don't do any subtraction or anything. So let's go ahead and do OK. Next up, the telescope. We've been through this one. It's the Celestron. Park when the sequence completes. Allow external control. auto meridian flip. I do 10 minutes past the meridian. I wait for it and auto center after. Then sync, so all of that stays the same. And in the settings, sometimes it takes a minute for it to pop up. Oh, it's already connected. So plate solve. I use plate solve 2. 4x4 binning, exposure 10 seconds. I've not had any problem with any of the filters yet. And yeah, I've gone through the plate solve in a previous video, so I'm not going to go through that. If I wanted to, I could use a specific filter like luminance, but that's fine. I haven't had a problem yet. If I do, I might switch that over, especially after I get the offsets or the filter offsets done later on. Auto center, maximum number of attempts 6 seems to be a good round number for me. Center is less than 250 pixels and rotator error is less than 3 degrees. Last night I ran the rotator for the first time, ran into a problem which took me a minute to figure out because I couldn't find the information, so I will definitely be doing a video on that, and it has to do with something I'm going to show you here in a minute. Auto guiding, PhD2, small dither, every frame. Most of these remained unchanged from before, so there's no need to rehash those. Stop and sequence, pause guiding, all that good stuff. If we go into other, there's no flat box. I don't have an observatory. I do have the rotator. And again, it says Nightcrawler, even though it is Lightcrawler. Settings. You'll notice this little checkbox right here. This is what caused me a huge amount of trouble getting started last night. When it was doing the auto center on Bode's Galaxy, I just kept noticing it made it through those 6 attempts to try to center, and it failed. It achieved center in 2 as far as north, south, east, west. However, rotation never got the angle right. And what was happening, I was going through using the rotator up here in the left, upper left, and when I'll do another video on what I actually did to simulate it, but I was trying to, something just wasn't adding up. I would plate solve and take an image, plate solve and set the angle, and it wasn't until I took some baby steps. I noticed that if I was at 90 degrees and I told it to move to 88 degrees, it would move to 92 degrees. So it was moving the exact number of degrees I wanted it to move, but it was in the opposite direction. And that's when I found this little button or this little checkbox right here. And once I clicked that, everything started working flawlessly after that. So that'll be an interesting video to do later on. Other than that, those are my settings, at least for the equipment. save real quick. And if we go into the sequencer, as you can see, moon is up at the beginning of the night right now, which is why I'm shooting narrowband. During my initial testing the other night, it seemed like 5 minutes for luminance was a good number, and 10 minutes for the narrowband was a good number. And I think that might hold true, as you can see here. We'll see when I get over to PixInsight and look at those images, but in blink. That's what I'm going with right now. 9 subs for each narrowband filter. Yes, I am taking the H beta or hydrogen beta. So that would be 3 times the resolution of just a single, but which should give decent color data for when we do our LRGB combination. And then right now for luminance, what I've read, half the exposure time, but double the amount of actual frames. So 5 minutes is half of 10 minutes, and we have 36 sub exposures. So I'm only doing 36 luminance right now. According to what I read, that should be 72, but I could be reading it wrong, so that's why I'm sticking with 36 right now, just to be able to get some data to work with. And as you can see here, I didn't get any luminance last night, but I did get the bulk of the H alpha, S2, O3, and hydrogen beta. Excuse me. So that's my starting point. I will make adjustments to this based on target and all that good stuff. So with that, just a little walk down the settings lane, and yeah. So hope you enjoyed that. I want to thank everybody for watching. Please stick around for the outro. As always, clear skies, and have a good one.
Thanks for watching yet another episode from the Astro Imaging Journey channel. Really appreciate your viewership. In our upper right, we have the latest video that I have posted prior to this one. Down in the lower right, we have what YouTube thinks you will enjoy. Below is a subscription link. Please hit that like button, subscribe if you so choose, ring that bell if you want to get notified of something new, and as always, thank you. Clear skies. Remember, dude.